The champagne flute slipped from my fingers in slow motion. I watched it fall, crystal catching the afternoon light, golden bubbles suspended midair, before it shattered against the marble floor of our bedroom. The sound echoed through the silence, sharp and final, like the crack of my world splitting open. My husband's Black American Express card lay on our bed, the one I'd just found tucked inside a receipt from the Rosewood Hotel. Room 847. Charged 15 times over the past 3 weeks. Always the same room. Always between 2 and 5 in the afternoon, while I was at the gallery. But it was the lipstick-stained note folded inside the receipt that made my hands shake. Same time tomorrow, my love. Wear what I like. Not my handwriting. Not my lipstick shade. I wore classic red, not this cheap coral pink. I was Diane Whitmore, 42 years old, standing in the bedroom of a $12 million villa overlooking Emerald Bay, holding evidence that my husband of 17 years had been living a double life. The same husband who'd kissed my forehead that morning and told me he had back-to-back investor meetings all week. The same man who'd built his commercial real estate empire from nothing, who'd promised me on our wedding day that I would always come first. The worst part? I almost put the receipt back. Almost pretended I hadn't seen it. Almost chose the comfortable lie over the devastating truth. But I'd spent 2 decades building my reputation as one of the most cutthroat art dealers on the West Coast. I didn't get where I was by ignoring red flags or accepting pretty lies. My phone was in my hand before I made the conscious decision to pick it up. I dialed the one person who'd never sugarcoat the truth. Diane. My sister Laurel's voice came through, immediately concerned. What's wrong? I need you to come to the house, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. And bring your lawyer friend, the vicious one who handles divorces. Oh God. He finally did it, didn't he? The fact that she wasn't surprised told me everything I needed to know about what everyone else had already suspected. The story of Marcus and me began 20 years ago in a dive bar in Seattle, back when I was a struggling art student and he was an ambitious young developer trying to flip his first property. I was their sketching patrons for $5 a portrait. He sat down, ordered a whiskey, and asked me to draw him. Make me look successful, he joked, loosening his tie. Fake it till you make it, right? I drew him as a king in a modern suit, sitting on a throne made of blueprints and steel beams. He loved it so much he asked me to dinner. 6 months later, we were married at Seattle City Hall, just the 2 of us and a judge, because we were too broke and too impatient to wait. Those early years were beautiful in their struggle. We ate ramen and dreamed big. He'd work 18-hour days on construction sites while studying for his real estate license at night. I'd work gallery receptions and slowly build my client list. Every success felt like ours. Every failure was just another obstacle to overcome together. You and me against the world. He'd whisper on the nights when the bank account hit zero and the future looked impossible. Then Marcus's big break came. A luxury condo development in downtown Seattle that made him $2 million in profit. Then another. Then another. Within 5 years, he'd built Whitmore Development into a $100 million company. We bought the villa on Emerald Bay, his dream house, the symbol of everything we'd achieved together. I opened my own gallery in the Arts District, specializing in emerging contemporary artists. While Marcus built empires of glass and steel, I built careers and reputations. We were a power couple. We had everything. Except, apparently, each other. The signs had been there for months, maybe longer. Late meetings that ran until midnight. Business trips that seemed to multiply. The way he'd started going to the gym at 5 in the morning, coming home showered, and smelling of expensive cologne. The new clothes in his closet, tailored sharper, younger, more fashion-forward than his usual conservative style. I'd noticed, but I told myself I was being paranoid. Marcus loved me. We'd built this life together from nothing. He wouldn't throw it away. I'd been wrong. Laurel arrived within the hour, accompanied by Patricia Chun, a divorce attorney with a reputation for leaving cheating husbands financially devastated. Patricia was 50, impeccably dressed, and had eyes like a shark. Show me everything, Patricia said, setting her briefcase on my dining table. I laid out the evidence. 15 receipts from the Rosewood, all for room 847. Credit card statements showing purchases at lingerie boutiques I'd never visited, jewelry stores where I'd received no gifts, restaurants I'd never been to. His calendar showed investor meetings that corresponded exactly with the hotel charges. Patricia's expression never changed as she photographed everything with her phone. This is good. Very good. Washington is a community property state, but infidelity can affect asset division if we play it right. Tell me about your finances. The villa is in both our names. So is his company. I was a founding partner before we formally incorporated, though I sold him my shares 8 years ago when the gallery took off. I have the gallery and my own investments, worth about $4 million. His company is valued at around $120 million, but it's complicated with investors and his liquid assets. Patricia interrupted. Maybe $20 million in various accounts, properties, stocks. The villa alone is worth 12. We have a place in Aspen worth 3. Various vehicles, art collection, the usual. Patricia's smile was razor thin. And you've been married 17 years, no prenup? No prenup. Excellent. Here's what we're going to do. The next afternoon at 2:47 p.m., I sat in my Mercedes across from the Rosewood Hotel, watching the entrance. Patricia sat beside me, her assistant in the back seat with a camera. My hands were steady on the steering wheel. I'd barely slept, but I felt unnaturally calm, the same ice-cold focus I got when negotiating a $1 million art deal. Emotion was a luxury I couldn't afford right now. At 2:52, Marcus's silver Tesla pulled into the valet lane. At 2:54, a woman stepped out of a black Audi 2 cars behind him. She was young, late 20s, maybe 30 at most. Long dark hair, expensive athleisure where that showed off a Pilates-perfect body, designer sunglasses. She handed her keys to the valet like she owned the world. Marcus waited by the entrance, pretending to check his phone. When she passed him, he followed at a casual distance. Not together, but together. A practiced routine. That's Alexis Romano, Laurel breathed from the back seat. She's one of the yoga instructors at your club. Jesus, Diane. I've seen her at your pool parties. The pool parties I'd hosted at our villa. The same parties where Marcus would grill steaks and pour wine and kiss my temple while telling our friends how lucky he was to have me. Get photos, Patricia said quietly. Everything. We waited 20 minutes, long enough to be sure, then walked into the hotel. Patricia had called ahead. The manager, a thin man in an expensive suit, met us in the lobby with the uncomfortable expression of someone caught between customer privacy and legal liability. Mrs. Whitmore, he said carefully, I'm afraid I can't give you access to room 847, Patricia said, placing a legal document on his desk. That room has been paid for 15 times in the past month by Marcus Whitmore using a credit card that is jointly held with my client. She has legal right to access any property purchased with those funds. You can either give us a key, or we can come back with police and make this very public. The manager's face went pale. Bad publicity was worse than anything else. He gave us the key. The elevator ride to the 8th floor felt endless. My reflection in the mirrored walls showed a woman I barely recognized, face pale, eyes hard, jaw set. I looked like I was going into battle. I was. We walked down the carpeted hallway, past doors hiding 1,000 private moments. The Do Not Disturb sign hung on room 847's handle. I used the key. The door clicked open. The room was a standard hotel suite, nothing special. Afternoon light streamed through gauzy curtains. There was a bottle of wine on the nightstand, 2 glasses. Clothes scattered across the floor. A man's dress shirt, a woman's black lace bra. And there, on the bed, wrapped in hotel sheets, my husband and Alexis Romano. They were asleep, exhausted from their afternoon activities, completely unaware that their secret world was about to detonate. I stood in the doorway for a long moment, memorizing the scene. Marcus's arm draped possessively over her waist. Her dark hair spread across his chest. The peaceful expressions of 2 people who thought they were safe. Behind me, Patricia's assistant was photographing everything with professional efficiency. "Marcus," I said. My voice came out cold and clear, cutting through the quiet like a blade. He stirred, opened his eyes, looked directly at me. For one beautiful second, I watched complete comprehension dawn on his face.
Shock.
Horror.
Fear.
The terrible understanding that everything was about to end. "Diane," he sat up so fast the sheets fell away. "Jesus, what are you? This isn't." 15 days, I said. "You've been coming here for 15 days. Same room, same time, same woman. While I was at the gallery. While I was home waiting for you. While I was sleeping next to you at night." Alexis was awake now, clutching sheets to her chest, eyes wide with panic. "Baby, please, let me explain." Marcus scrambled out of bed, reaching for his pants. "Don't." The word cracked like a whip. "Don't you dare call me baby. Don't insult me with explanations. I have receipts, Marcus. I have photographs. I have 15 charges on your black card for this room. I have jewelry purchases and lingerie that never came home to me. I have everything." His face went from red to white. "Diane, please. Can we talk about this privately? We don't need." "Oh, but we do." Patricia stepped into view, her smile professional and devastating. "Hello, Mr. Whitmore. I'm Patricia Chern, Mrs. Whitmore's attorney. You'll be receiving divorce papers tomorrow morning. I suggest you retain counsel immediately." We moved to the hotel restaurant. Marcus threw on his clothes and followed us downstairs in a daze, like a man walking to his execution. Alexis had fled through the bathroom window, or maybe just hid in the room. I didn't care enough to check. Patricia sent her assistant away. This part needed to be private. We sat at a corner table, away from other diners. Marcus looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. His hands shook as he reached for his water glass. "How long?" I asked. "Diane." "How long, Marcus?" He closed his eyes. 8 months. 8 months. Not 15 days. Not even close to just 15 days. 8 months of lying, of double lives, of coming home and kissing me while smelling like her perfume. How did it start? My voice was eerily calm. I felt like I was floating somewhere above my body, watching this happen to someone else. "It doesn't matter. It matters to me." He rubbed his face. When he spoke, his voice was hollow. "She taught a yoga class at the club. We talked. She was interested in real estate development, wanted advice. We had coffee. It just happened." "It just happened?" I repeated. 8 months just happened. 15 hotel visits just happened. You just happened to buy her jewelry and lingerie and take her to restaurants we used to go to. It all just happened, like gravity, like you had no choice." I did have a choice. He slammed his hand on the table, sudden rage breaking through. "And I made it. I chose something that made me feel alive again. When was the last time you really looked at me, Diane? When was the last time we had a conversation that wasn't about your gallery or my company? We've been roommates for years, just going through the motions." The words hung between us like poison gas. "So this is my fault," I said softly. "That's not what I made you cheat. I made you lie. I made you fall into bed with a woman 20 years younger than me because I was too busy building a career you encouraged me to build. You built a career that replaced me." His voice rose. "Everything became about the gallery. About your artists, your exhibitions, your success. I was just the wallet. The boring husband who pays for everything while you get to be the exciting one." Patricia cleared her throat. "Mr. Whitmore, I strongly advise you to stop talking." But I held up my hand. I wanted to hear this. Needed to hear it.
"Keep going," I said.
"Tell me more about how I failed you." Marcus's eyes were red. "I'm not saying you failed me. I'm saying we failed each other. We stopped being partners. We stopped being lovers. We became business associates who shared a bed. And yes, I handled it wrong. I know that. I should have talked to you, should have gone to counseling, should have done anything except what I did. But I was lonely, Diane. I was so damn lonely in our perfect house with our perfect life." Something cracked in my chest. Because part of me understood. Part of me had felt it too, The distance growing between us, the conversations becoming more transactional, the intimacy fading into routine. But I'd thought that was just marriage. Just what happened after 17 years. I'd thought we were still solid underneath it all. If you were lonely, I said, my voice breaking for the first time, you should have told me. You should have fought for us. You should have done literally anything except the one thing that would destroy everything we built. I know. Tears streamed down his face now.
I know. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Diane.
I love you. I never stopped loving you.
No.
I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. You don't get to say that. Love doesn't do this. Love doesn't betray. Love doesn't book the same hotel room 15 times while their wife is working. You loved your ego, Marcus. You loved feeling young again. You loved having someone look at you like you were new and exciting instead of familiar and comfortable.
But you didn't love me.
Not enough. I turned to Patricia. File everything. I want the villa, I want half of everything else, and I want it done fast. Diane, please. Marcus reached for my arm. I stepped back. The locks on the villa will be changed by tonight. You can stay at your hotel room. I'm sure Alexis won't mind. The next 3 weeks were a blur of lawyers, documents, and cold negotiations. Marcus tried everything, apologies, flowers, letters, showing up at the gallery. I had Patricia handle all communication. I couldn't look at him without seeing those hotel receipts, without imagining every lie. The villa became my war room. Laurel moved in to keep me company. We drank wine and went through 17 years of memories, deciding what to keep and what to burn. Photos got sorted into piles, before and after. The before photos showed 2 young people building a life, eyes full of hope. The after photos showed 2 strangers posing for Christmas cards. I found the divorce papers easy to sign. My hand didn't shake at all. Patricia was a savage negotiator. She used the infidelity angle perfectly, making it clear that if Marcus fought, everything would become public. His business reputation, his investor relationships, his pristine image would all shatter. The threat alone was enough. We settled. I kept the villa and the Aspen property. I got $8 million in liquid assets, half his stock portfolio, and a hefty settlement from his company's shares. The gallery and my investments were already mine. When everything was totaled, I walked away with roughly $35 million. Marcus kept his company, but he was significantly poorer and considerably humiliated. Word had gotten out, the way word always does in our social circle. Invitations dried up. Business lunches became awkward. The gold-plated life he'd built started showing tarnish. I heard through mutual friends that things with Alexis fell apart within weeks of our separation. Apparently, she wasn't interested in a man going through a messy divorce and financial restructuring. She wanted the successful, powerful Marcus, not the damaged, desperate one. The poetic justice was almost too perfect. 6 months after signing the divorce papers, I stood on the terrace of the villa, watching the sun set over Emerald Bay. The house was mine now. Completely, legally, undeniably mine. I'd redecorated everything. New furniture, new art on the walls, new life in every room. The bedroom where I'd found that receipt was now my personal studio. I'd started painting again for the first time in years. The bed we'd shared was donated. The memories were boxed and stored in the attic, where they belonged. The gallery was thriving. I'd thrown myself into work and discovered a renewed passion for finding brilliant unknowns and launching their careers. 3 of my artists had pieces acquired by major museums in the past 4 months. I was planning an expansion to New York. Laurel brought me a glass of wine and stood beside me, both of us watching the water turn gold. "Do you miss him?" she asked quietly. I considered the question honestly. I miss who we were. I miss 20-year-old Marcus who drew blueprints on napkins and believed we could do anything. I miss 30-year-old Marcus who surprised me with gallery space for my birthday, even though we couldn't really afford it. I miss the partnership we had before it became a performance. But not the man he became?
No.
That man was a stranger. That man made choices that showed me exactly how little I meant when it came down to it. I sipped my wine. You know what's strange? I'm not even angry anymore. I'm just free. I feel lighter than I have in years.
Good.
You deserve better than being someone's backup plan. We clinked glasses and drank as the sun melted into the bay. 2 months later, I was at an art opening in Seattle when I ran into Marcus. He looked older, rougher around the edges. The expensive suit couldn't hide the weight he'd lost or the shadows under his eyes. He was with a date, a woman close to his age this time, sophisticated and poised. She excused herself to look at the art when she saw us. "Diane," Marcus said, "you look incredible." "Thank you." An awkward pause stretched between us. All those years, all those words, and now we were strangers making small talk at a gallery opening. "I've been following your success," he said. "The expansion to New York. The museum acquisitions. You're doing amazing things." "I am. The gallery's never been better." He nodded, something painful flickering across his face. "I'm glad. You deserve it. You always deserved more than I gave you." I studied him for a moment. This man I'd loved, built a life with, divorced. "Are you happy, Marcus?" The question seemed to surprise him. He considered it seriously. "I'm working on it. I'm in therapy, trying to figure out why I blew up my life. Trying to understand the difference between being happy and chasing the feeling of happiness." He gestured vaguely. "It's harder than I expected. Growing up usually is." His smile was sad. "I really am sorry, Diane. For all of it. You didn't deserve what I did." "No, I didn't. But I'm grateful for it now." "Grateful?" "It forced me to build something that was completely mine. To remember who I was before I became part of Marcus and Diane. To value myself enough to walk away from someone who didn't value me." I finished my wine. "So thank you, I suppose. For the receipts. For being careless enough to get caught. For giving me my life back." I left him standing there and walked back into the gallery, into my world, into the future I'd built from the ashes of his betrayal. 3 years after the divorce, the villa on Emerald Bay was featured in Architectural Digest. The spread showcased how I'd transformed it from a showpiece of corporate success into a living gallery space, walls covered in rotating art installations, the pool house converted into a guest studio for visiting artists, the grounds host to quarterly sculpture exhibitions. I was dating a sculptor named David, a quiet, thoughtful man who made me laugh and never made me question where he was or who he was with. It wasn't the passionate whirlwind of young love. It was something better, a partnership built on trust, respect, and genuine enjoyment of each other's company. Laurel got married in the villa's garden. I was her maid of honor. The gallery expanded to New York and then London. I'd built an empire of my own, not of steel and glass, but of canvas and bronze and breakthrough talent. Sometimes I still thought about Marcus, about the life we'd had, about the moment I found those receipts. But the thoughts didn't hurt anymore. They were just part of my story, the chapter where I learned that betrayal could be a beginning instead of an ending. On quiet evenings, I'd sit on the terrace with a glass of wine, watching the sun set over the bay. My bay now, my house, my life. Everything I'd fought for and refused to give up when someone tried to make me small. The champagne flute that had shattered on the marble floor that terrible afternoon had scattered into 1,000 pieces. But I'd swept them up, thrown them away, and bought new glasses. Sometimes breaking things was the only way to rebuild them better. Sometimes the greatest gift someone could give you was showing you exactly who they were so you could decide who you wanted to be. I chose myself. And I never looked back.